Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in day 9 of AWS series, today we are going to discuss about virtual private cloud. In short form we call it VPC, and this is most popular service in AWS because here in under this particular service you are going to create or manage your resources. So let's understand in more detail. So what is virtual private cloud? So virtual private cloud is a virtual network that you create in AWS. It is logically isolated from other AWS customer networks, meaning your resources run in their own private space. So what you basically do whenever you create a AWS account, under that you can see all the services are public, but you want to deploy or create your own resources in a particular or separate network where you only or your organization will only have access, and no one other apart from you or your organization can't access these resources because of security. So what you do, you create a virtual private cloud in AWS and you start creating or provisioning your resources under that. So it is basically a private space for your resources where you only or your organization only have access on the resources. You can think of it as setting up your own data center in the cloud but without managing the physical hardware. So here what you do basically, you control the IP address range, you control the subnet. Subnet basically a small section of your network. Then you create a routing rules. You can access like who can access what, that you only define, like use with the help of security groups and firewalls. So all these things you are going to manage because it's your responsibility to manage all the resources under virtual private cloud because you only have access, and you will basically design okay how my resources can communicate with each other or outside the world. That is up to you how you are going to define. So when we do a demo on virtual private cloud, then it will be a more clear. So let's, for this video I'm not going in more detail, I just want to give you a quick overview about virtual private cloud. So let's understand a virtual private cloud with the help of this particular diagram. So you can see these green boundaries are basically AWS region, because whenever you are going to create any resources or you are going to provision any services in AWS, you have to first choose a region. It could be your US region, Asia region, or best region, like whatever you want, wherever you want to provision or create your resources. First thing you have to choose a AWS region. So the green boundary is AWS region. Under that region basically you create your virtual private cloud, your own data center which you are only going to manage it. So the blue boundary, you can see this is the virtual private cloud under the AWS region which you have chosen. So the very top layer is AWS region. Under the region you create a virtual private cloud, and then you start provisioning the resources or services under this VPC. So here basically you can see we have two subnets. Don't think about subnet for now, we will discuss in coming videos in more details. So in VPC we have two subnets, public subnet and private subnet. So what does it mean, public subnet and private subnet? It means whatever the resources we are going to provision as part of this particular public subnet, that will have internet access, like you can access from the internet. But whatever the resources you are going to provision as part of private subnet, that will not have a internet access, or you cannot access directly from the internet. For example, when we host our web application or websites on any cloud provider, it could be Azure, AWS or Google Cloud. So what you do, you need a public address or public DNS name from the which you can access your application. So all those resources, like you can think about it, front end of your application you are going to host in public subnet, and the database part which is like end of the day application which we are going to host as part of public subnet, that only need access to this private subnet. In private subnet, for example, we can host our databases. So nobody can access your database if it's in a private subnet. Whoever have access or who is the part of this particular subnet, they only can access the database from this subnet. Then you can see here network access control list. Then we have a route table. So just don't just for now, just understand the structure here. We'll go on each of the component in more detail in coming videos. Then we have a route table here, which basically define how your traffic will route. Then we have here is router. Then we have here is internet gateway. So I'll give you a quick example here. Suppose I have hosted my web application on this public subnet, and the end user, for like I want to access this application from my local system. Then that how traffic will flow in this case. So whenever we request to access the application or website URL, it will go through the internet gateway. Then it will go to the routers. Then it will go to the route table. From the route table, it will go to the network access control list. Then it will go through the security groups, where basically we allow inbound or outbound rules. Then it will go to the particular EC2 instance or the service where we have hosted our application or websites. And if we want to access a database which we have hosted in private subnet, then again the same flow will happen. From this particular public subnet, you will do a SSH connection to private subnet, but again you have to create some kind of security groups or rules you have to apply. That we will also see in on a demonstration in upcoming videos. So this is the overall structure of your resources when you create a virtual private cloud in AWS. Now there are private IP ranges which AWS allowed. Like we can create resources. Like if we are using virtual private cloud, it means we need a private IP address range which we will assign to our resources for communication. So AWS allowed only these IP ranges which we can use for virtual private cloud. So you can see the first range here start from 10.0.0.0 to 10.255.255.255. So this is the first range. You will see basically you have to create this range whenever you create a virtual private cloud. That we will also see in coming videos. Then you have to define a CIDR notation. CIDR notation basically specify, like it is the full form is classless inter-domain routing. So again you can see these notations /8. So it means don't think about like the calculation we will see in upcoming videos. Just understand CIDR notation allows okay how many IP addresses we will get for this particular range. So for example, if you are using this range of IP address and you are using /8 notation, then you will get 16.7 million addresses. But AWS allow us to only use a CIDR notation between /16 to /28. So we cannot create a CIDR block like /15 /14 /13. We have to create this CIDR notation like from between 6/16 to /28. So let me quickly go to one website. Okay, let me escape it. So let me go here. If I'll search here CIDR XYZ, so this will basically tell us okay, if you are using this particular notation, then how many IP addresses you will get to create your resources. So for example, I'm going to select this particular range 10.0.0.0. So what I will do here, I will put here 10.0.0 0 and 0. Now as per the private IP range which we allowed between /16 to /28. So for example, if I'm using /16 here, in that case how many IP addresses we will get? We will get 65,536 IP addresses as part of this IP range, which we can allocate to or assign to our resources. And for example, if I am using here, let's say /28, in that case we will get only 16 IP addresses. If I'll make it /24, then we will get 256 IP addresses. And under 256, a few IP addresses, like from starting 0, 1, 2, 3, that will be reserved by AWS. You cannot use. So the usable IP addresses will be 251 only. So you can see here the broadcast IP, the last 0.255, this is used for broadcast, and last usable IP like till 254 you can use, and first usable IP address 0.1, but still we cannot use 0.1. We will see when we will create a VPC in them for demo. So we will start using the IP address 0.4 range. So that's how basically you calculate a CIDR blocks location if you are using /24, /20 or /21, whatever. In that case, how many IP addresses you will get as part of this IP address range. So if I'll make it here /20, it means you will get 4096 IP addresses. So that's how you create or you calculate a IP address. Like, it's again depending on the requirement, how many IP addresses you need it. So based on that you choose this CIDR notation here. Another range we got is 172.16.0.02, 170.31.255.255. So these are the range, and if you can see this particular range 192.168.0.0. So this range generally we see in our home network. So all these ranges, like between these ranges only we can create a private network in AWS. So you have to keep this in mind. Now, what is default VPC versus custom VPC? So default VPC is whenever we create a AWS account, by default AWS create a virtual private cloud for us. And the custom VPC is we create our own virtual private network. So let's understand the feature here, created by. So default VPC is AWS automatically created per region, and custom VPC you create it manually. Subnet, one published subnet in each availability zone, and here in custom VPC you define public and private subnet. Then is internet gateway. So again, in default VPC automatically attach, but in custom VPC you must create and attach it. Route table, automatically created and configured, you must create and manage them. Same for net gateway. So in default VPC you will not have net gateway included, and if you are using custom virtual private cloud, in that case you must add it if needed. Use case, quick start for basic setup. So if you are not familiar about networking like virtual private cloud, subnet, CIDR, route tables, internet gateways, then it is like I would recommend start with default VPCs, then start learning about the networking fundamentals and virtual private clouds. Then you will start using a custom VPC, because here you will have full control, and it is recommended if you are using hosting a production workload. In that case you should use a custom VPC only. Now in customizability, here a limited option we have. Here it's a fully customizable, like you can create your own CIDR blocks, own subnets, own access control list, etc. And in terms of security, it is less secure by default because public IP address is auto assigned. In custom VPC is a more secure, you control the IPs and access, etc. So this is the comparison between default virtual private cloud versus custom virtual private cloud. Now the question is, why is it important in AWS networking? Because networking is a crucial, I would say, a backbone of any network, any cloud provider, because that's how you manage your resources, how they will communicate to internally or how they will communicate to the outside the world. So networking plays a very crucial role in any of the cloud provider, or maybe in a on-premise environment. So this plays very important role. So let's understand few like why it is. So it is the foundation of securely launching and managing AWS resources like EC2, RDS or Lambda. So when you create your own networking setup, then you know, okay, where are security breaches and what all the things you have to improve. Like you will have basically full control how you want to manage or communicate your resources. It allow complete control over how your application communicate with the internet, with each other, or stay completely private. You can set public and private areas, create secure layer, and ensure traffic only flow where you allow it. So if you are using a virtual private cloud, in that case you are completely, yeah, like you will have complete control on your network, and you decide what you want to allow and what you want to deny. So you can think of VPN like a gated community. I forget it, it's not VPN, it's a BPC. Let me correct it here as well. So you can think of VPC like a gated community where only authorized people like your resources can enter. You decide the layout of roads like subnets, install security gates like firewalls, and choose who can come in or go out via the internet gateway or net gateway. So basically, in short form, you will have complete control on your infrastructure, and you will decide how your application will behave, how they will interact with each other, how they will interact with outside the world or over internet. So this is about virtual private cloud, and this is very most important topic. If you are learning AWS, so you should be very familiar about this virtual private cloud. So I hope it's clear. That's all for today. See you in next video. Thank you so much.